The end of global liberalization? UK's warning and Trump's tariff war. Sometimes history doesn't repeat, it shakes the entire world. And something like that happened when UK Prime Minister Starmer uttered words that sounded like a eulogy to decades of global economic policy. A thunderous declaration that not only rattled the walls of free trade, but also exposed the reality behind the tariff war being spearheaded by the United States under Donald Trump. A signal that perhaps global liberalization is now breathing its last. The question is, are we now heading into a world of closed borders once again? Today, we'll explore this issue in depth. But before we begin, if you are new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our latest updates. So without further delay, let's dive in. The UK, which has long shaped its policies under America's shadow, is now raising its voice in opposition on the global stage. Prime Minister Starmer issued a stark warning to the world that Donald Trump's tariff war is no longer just an issue between the US and China, but one that is destabilizing the entire global economic balance. He further declared that it's time for countries to break free from the illusion that global liberalization benefits everyone. When close allies like the UK begin questioning US policies, it's a clear sign that the situation is truly serious. Supporting Starmer's view, Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong also criticized Trump's approach, calling his policies not just aggressive but destructive. Wong warned that the tariff measures taken by the US have disrupted the global trade framework. The impact is not limited to textiles or machinery. It's now challenging democratic values and human principles as well. He emphasized that such economic battles can ultimately escalate into political and social conflicts. The conditions we see today have their roots in a mindset that emerged in the last century, what we came to know as global liberalization. This idea first took shape when China, in 1978, abandoned its closed economic policies and embraced open trade. Following this, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, new nations emerged, seeking global cooperation. A mix of necessity and hope gave birth to this vision of global trade, a vision that connected countries, but also gradually pulled them away from their core values. India's experience stands as one of the most striking examples of this liberalization. In 1991, when India was forced to mortgage its gold, the nation realized that a closed economy could no longer sustain its future. The government of 𝐟𝐨𝐥𝐸𝐵 Rao accepted the terms of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, stepping onto the path of liberalization. This wasn't just an economic decision, it was a turning point that reshaped India's destiny. But this path wasn't paved with roses, it was lined with the sharp thorns of conditions and compromises. India had to devalue its currency to secure foreign assistance. Import duties were slashed, government controls were dismantled, and a wave of privatization swept through the economy. At that time, it felt like a new dawn for the country, but looking back today, it becomes clear that this dawn came with a long and scorching afternoon. India achieved economic growth, yes, but often at the cost of its social and cultural values. And it wasn't just India. Many European countries also adopted global liberalization out of necessity. But no one foresaw that this very policy would eventually become a political weapon in the hands of powerful nations. The United States, once a champion of liberalization, now stands against it under the leadership of Donald Trump. And this opposition isn't limited to tariffs alone. It points toward a new form of economic nationalism that challenges the very foundation of globalization. Donald Trump's tariff policy has stirred up a storm across the world, one that's not only disrupting trade balance but also shaking the very pillars of economic stability. He hasn't spared anyone. China, India, Europe, all have felt the heat. Every nation has now realized that trust alone won't sustain global markets anymore. Strength must be shown. And when fear replaces trust, the very foundation of global trade begins to crack. That's why Britain's statement carries such weight, coming from a long-standing ally that for decades echoed America's voice. Now, when that same country claims that global liberalization is breathing its last, the question arises, is this just a political statement or a warning of an impending storm? Amid all these developments, the most striking fact is this: the very countries that once championed global liberalization are now defining its limits. The US insists it must protect its own industries. It wants to impose heavy tariffs on imports so domestic producers can thrive. But won't this push other nations to do the same? If everyone begins building walls, the meaning of global trade may cease to exist altogether. Tariff wars are no longer just trade weapons. They've become diplomatic tools. And when a nation's diplomacy is driven solely by commerce, ideals like democracy, freedom, and human rights often get left behind. That's why leaders like Lawrence Wong have called this approach a threat to democratic values. This new style of economic warfare is slowly pushing the world into an era where monopolies, control, and fear form the basis of global policy. Looking at this entire episode, it's clear that the United States is no longer advocating for mutual global interests. Its vision now centers on America first. And when a superpower starts viewing itself as above the rest of the world, it becomes a warning bell for other nations. Countries like Britain and Singapore have recognized this threat in time, but are others ready? The world now faces two choices: either accept America's unilateral tariff strategy and become part of global imbalance, or take steps toward economic self-reliance. For a country like India, the second path is far more suitable. And it is here that Mahatma Gandhi's idea becomes profoundly relevant: Swaraj. The Swaraj envisioned by Gandhi was not just political but economic as well, a system where every individual, from villages to cities, is economically empowered. Trump's tariff policy is both a challenge and an opportunity, a signal hidden within a crisis. It forces us to reflect: can we truly develop by relying on another nation's policies? Or must we place our trust in our own resources, our entrepreneurs, and our independent vision? For India, this is a chance to strengthen its economic framework, elevate its products to global quality standards, and take a decisive step toward self-reliance. This entire episode also makes one thing abundantly clear: institutions like the World Bank and IMF, once seen as saviors for struggling economies, now appear to be extensions of powerful nations' agendas. Until these institutions are governed with impartiality and inclusivity, the idea of global economic balance will remain an illusion. Another major impact of America's tariff strategy will be felt on the social and cultural front. When a country imposes tariffs to restrict foreign goods, it doesn't just block products, it limits the exchange of ideas and cultures too. In such scenarios, societies risk becoming insular. For a nation like India, whose identity lies in its diversity, adopting such a model could prove disastrous. Therefore, India must strike a balance, participating in global trade while steadily progressing toward self-reliance. It should neither become overly dependent on the United States, nor bow to China's expansionist economic model. In today's world, true strength belongs to the nation that can provide employment to its people, empower its entrepreneurs, and respond to global crises on its own terms. Now that countries like the UK and Singapore are speaking out, the rest of the world must also break its silence. This is the moment when nations need more than just statements. They must chart a direction. If we want the future to be secure, we must begin crafting policies today that are based not just on profit, but on stability and inclusivity. The essence of the story is that global liberalization is no longer what it once was. It's no longer just an economic model, it has become a political tool wielded by powerful nations for their convenience. In such a world, every country must decide, will it become a victim of others' policies, or will it stand by its own principles and forge a new path? In the end, we must all ask ourselves one question: is the dream of global trade and cooperation falling apart? Or can we come together and give it a new direction? The answer lies with us, and perhaps this moment is our greatest
Video
opportunity.
has taught you something new. Do not forget to like and share this video so that this information can reach others as well. Your likes and shares are a source of inspiration for us. If you have any questions or suggestions, please let us know in the comments. It will be our honor to answer your questions and listen to suggestion. And yes, if you like our content, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you stay connected with every new story. Thank you. GRT Business YouTube channel sources: news from various news agencies, opinion polls, and other public sources. We try to ensure that every report and summary is accurate and verified, but we are not responsible for any dispute or error. Our aim is only to provide you with accurate information.